everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for logging on to this informational session related to our first, actually in our center's history, special call for research specifically in FEMA Region 8. And so we are really excited to welcome you here today on behalf of myself, Jennifer, and the entire Natural Hazard Center team, and also on behalf of our partners at the Federal Emergency Management Agency here in Region 8, who you are going to have a chance to hear from today. And then there will be ample time for questions and answers after we provide a brief overview of this special call. So welcome, thank you for being here. And then Jen, if you'll go ahead, next slide, please. So first and foremost, what we wanted to share was sort of the big picture overview and the objectives for what we're going to accomplish today during our remaining minutes together. And so first and foremost, we want to share more about this special funding opportunity to support research specifically here in Region 8. We will have an opportunity to review key dates, program goals, considerations for the ethical conduct and scientific rigor of the research that we plan to support. Third, as noted, we're going to hear from our partners right here in FEMA Region 8 regarding some special areas of interest. And we are very careful to use that language and not priorities, because we do not want to foreclose the creativity and spark of the researchers here in the region and our partners. But we are going to hear some more about some particular areas of interest, but again, a very open special call. As you will hear today, we're looking for the best research. And then finally, again, we'll use whatever time we need and have at the end for plenty of questions and answers and time for discussion. And so just a brief overview of the special call. So this special call is made possible with the support of FEMA Region 8, as well as the National Science Foundation. So those are the funders for this special call, and it is being administered through the Natural Hazard Center at the University of Colorado Boulder. And for this particular special call, we will follow the Quick Response Research Award Program proposal submission guidelines, which many of you on here are already well familiar with. They're up on our Natural Hazard Center website, and you can find the link on your screen, and these slides, as well as the video recording, will be posted. In terms of funding, we will fund up to 10 awards up to the amount of $4,000 each. And in terms of eligibility, this funding call, we'd really envisioned, as you're going to hear today, first and foremost, this is about promoting research in FEMA Region 8 and also supporting researchers who are currently located in FEMA Region 8, or Erin Flores, I know you are on here, formerly located in FEMA Region 8. So we're going to be a little flexible with this. We really are working to build a research community, a practice here in the region, but we also don't want to be so rigid that we lose out on the opportunity. For example, I'm being totally serious in calling out Erin. Erin spent many years here in FEMA Region 8, recently transitioned to Arizona State, which is in Region 9. So again, this is about research in Region 8 and researchers in Region 8, but we have some flexibility built in there too. Next slide, please. I want to show you a visualization that was actually created by my wonderful graduate student and research assistant here at the Natural Hazard Center, Heather Champeau, who is actually writing a dissertation using data from researchers who have joined the Social Science Extreme Events Research Network, which those of you who were invited to the call today are both hazards and disaster researchers, but you're also members of the SSEER network. And so this map that Heather generated actually shows the FEMA regions, and then it shows the number of SSEER researchers who have joined per region. And so what you can see on this map is that we currently have 102 researchers right here in FEMA Region 8 who are part of this larger SSEER network. And so in terms of who received the email from me today being invited to this call, we did start with a targeted email to the 102 of you who are SSEER members, self-identified social and behavioral science researchers who study hazards and disasters who are located here in Region 8. Of course, if we missed colleagues, students who are hazards and disaster researchers who are right here in the region but may not be members of the SSEER network yet, please encourage them to join the network if they are social scientists and let them know that this call is open to them. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer Tobin, who's going to share some key dates related to this special funding call and some other really vital information. Jen, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. So many of you I know probably are a little bit familiar with the Quick Response Grant Program, so a lot of this will sound familiar. But please do know that there are special and unique things that we're going to cover today that are unique to this special call for FEMA Region 8. And so first, these proposals are going to be accepted on an open rolling basis, which means that you can go to our Quick Response webpage right now and submit a proposal. And we'll keep that open until January 27th, 2023. So you have some time, but I do encourage you that if you really are trying to apply for funding, that you do that sooner than later, because we will fund projects until we, of course, run out of the money to fund them. So if we have to close early, we will, but hopefully we won't have to do that. So as a deliverable for receiving this award, you will need to write a 20-page double-spaced report, which summarizes project activities, findings, and then unique to this special call, really focus on actionable recommendations for FEMA Region 8 emergency managers. And then this is due within 6 months of award activation. So when you submit a proposal, it'll go to our review team, we'll review it. And then once we've approved your proposal, that from that point on, you have 6 months to collect your data and to write your report and submit it back to the Natural Hazards Center to publish online. And then we will publish all of those reports online upon acceptance as part of the Quick Response Report series. And the web link is right there. And that's on our webpage right now. And so your article will be posted there. And of course, FEMA and us will share it far and wide. So next slide. Okay. Okay, so for some key considerations for research for this particular special call, we're looking for compelling questions, such as prioritizing novel research that helps expand our understanding of the human and social dimensions, which is why all of you were invited to apply for these for this award funding in FEMA Region 8 and beyond, as Lori described. We are looking for a strong research design that has attention to ethics, rigor, sample population, and site selection, and a clear strategy for data collection and analysis. And then we've also provided some resources here, which are all available online as well, from our Converge website, converge.colorado.edu. And there's some check sheets, there's training modules, there's information about publishing your data and instruments if you're interested in that. And that's all available for free on the Converge website. Okay. We're also looking for a clear and feasible time frame. So we want to make sure that you know that in your proposal that you include a time frame that has plans for data collection, analysis, report writing, and must be feasible and should be clear in your proposal. We are also looking for, like I said before, actionable recommendations for FEMA Region 8. And so your proposal should include a statement describing how you expect those outcomes and how they could be used as actionable guidance for emergency managers in the region. So of course, you won't know exactly what you have until you get your research findings, but hopefully you can predict a little bit what you're planning to do with the research and how you can actually help improve practice for emergency managers. And then finally, we're interested in proposals that are looking at past, present, and future hazards and disasters. So we will be accepting proposals not just for that quick response period like we do for other quick response research awards, but this one actually spans kind of that horizon of past, present, and future. We're also looking for a strong focus on preparedness for natural hazards, as well as recent hazards, so in the last 3 or so years, and future unfolding within the next 3 months or so as this call is open. Okay. So award funding, I'm gonna just put all this on there. Okay, so in order to be eligible for award funding, so the lead investigator, as designated in the proposal, must be from an academic institution based in FEMA Region 8 state, territory, or tribal area. Partnerships outside of the region are welcome and encouraged. And like Lori said, there's a little bit of flexibility here in gray areas. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to just reach out to me. Email me anytime if you have additional questions, but we can kind of tell you where that gray area lies. Award funding can be distributed to up to 3 people, including the lead investigator, co-leads, project assistants, and other local collaborators. Some people find it very useful to have it spread across the team versus one person receiving all the money and then being responsible for the distribution of that. Researchers may need to begin data collection prior to funding being issued. So just so you know, if you need to get out in the field right away, sometimes there is a delay in how fast we can get you the money as it's processed through CU Boulder. And so just know that you might be responsible for covering your own costs until we're able to get that check mailed to you. Okay. So also all of these social and behavioral sciences, of course, will probably need IRB approval if you're interested in studying something in regards to human subjects. So you cannot begin data collection until you have your own institutional review board approval from your university. And so you'll have to send us either a letter of exemption or approval to the Natural Hazards Center. And we have a little article here that you can read as a resource in terms of getting interdisciplinary teams into the field. And so this is if you're doing more of a rapid response approach. Sometimes you can work with your IRB to get a pre-approved project where when a disaster actually happens, you can quickly process that through and it kind of reduces that wait time at the other side of the disaster. And so once IRB approval and award agreement documents are submitted, payments will be sent directly to the award recipient, not your university. So this is like similar to more of a scholarship or an award versus a grant. So this will be submitted directly to the person receiving the money, not to the institution or university. And if you are a University of Colorado employee, it'll be included in your as an additional pay on your paycheck, but please do reach out to myself or Katie Murphy at the Natural Hazards Center so we can explain to you that process is a little bit different in terms of getting paid from University of Colorado Boulder or anybody in the University of Colorado system actually. So reach out to us if you are a University of Colorado employee and we'll explain that process to you. And then of course, as always, award recipients are responsible for any tax ramifications associated with receiving payment. Oops, there's a little typo there. Okay. Okay, so back to you, Lori, to introduce Daniel and Daniel.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that overview of some of the program logistics, but also some of the research areas we're looking for. And so now I'm really excited to turn this over to our colleagues, and I'd like to say our friends here in FEMA Region 8 who have been so supportive and excited about really building out this community of academic as well as the academic and beyond researchers here in FEMA Region 8. And so we're going to have a chance to hear from Daniel Nyquist as well as Daniel Green from FEMA Region 8, and they're going to emphasize some of the areas of research interest in the region, but also are going to talk to us some about the broader vision and goals of this partnership that we've been developing. And so as we fondly call them, Dan Squared, over to whichever one of you would like to lead this off, and then thank you for staying on with us for any questions or comments to follow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm one of the Dans. My name is Daniel Green. I'm the resilience analyst in FEMA Region 8 who runs the Region 8 higher education program. Dan Nyquist is on and listening in, but he's currently tied up at the moment. So if I do anything right, it's because he coached me well. If I do anything wrong, it's because I'm just not as good as him. So that should bode well for my next supervisor review. I want to say it's really exciting to work with all of you, and this is something we've been parsing and trying to figure out for a while, and it stands to shine a light on some areas that have been a persistent issue inside of FEMA as a whole and Region 8 in particular. As you know, anyone who has spent any time in Region 8 knows that it is an absolutely stunning part of the country with vistas unlike any other. That also leads to some very interesting human geography and interactions with natural hazards. And I think these areas of research that interest kind of demonstrate that. Preparedness, of course, is always a major issue of interest for us because one, it is one of the more abstract aspects of emergency management, one of the areas that's hardest to measure and understand. We would welcome any and all help with that. And then also because given that we are living in a very remote, far-flung areas where people are just on the very edge of social fabric that makes up the country, you know, take a drive through South Dakota and see how many people are reliant on 7 miles of power line just to get to one home. And you start to realize that preparedness is of the utmost importance in the Mountain West and the Northern Great Plains. In addition, we all know climate change is rearing its head. It is already having an impact. There is an impressive amount of work on the mechanics of climate change in terms of meteorology, hydrology, hydrography, geology, that sort of thing. But we're also very interested in understanding how those interact with human behavior, the human aspects of climate change, how our decision-making changes, how are people weighing different parts of their life, what behaviors are we seeing impacted by, changed by, or not being changed by climate change that could, on the whole, help us better understand emergency management, because at the end of the day, emergency management is a human service. Understanding the hazards and disasters in Region 8 is also an area for prime focus. To put it bluntly, there's enough research on hurricanes. And also, this is not a region that has to really care about hurricanes. If we do, something has gone very wrong with climate change. But there's a interesting intersection of natural hazards, geography, political geography, human geography, political systems out here that is unique and stands apart from our peers in the eastern United States. So things such as floods, wildfires, earthquakes, tornadoes, and non-Stafford Act events such as droughts, for our friends in the Dakotas and Montana. What happens when the Missouri River is no longer a reliable source of water for the breadbasket of the United States? Just take one look at the crisis meetings that were held in Salt Lake City this year over the status of the Great Salt Lake. That's another area of interest. And this also an area of interest, not just because it impacts Region 8, but because it has wide applicability across the Western United States, an area that has been growing substantially for the last few decades in the United States, that is a very important part of the country, not just because of the fact that any soul that resides anywhere automatically makes it an important area, but because of the growing commercial and agricultural impact that this part of the country has on the United States as a whole and the world. Equity, of course, is a massive consideration, and we're especially interested in understanding how we can use an equity lens to better analyze the delivery of federal programs and procedures, whether that be in disasters or pre-disaster work, such as mitigation, preparedness, pre-disaster mitigation, that sort of thing. And one of the other things there, just as sort of a coverall for everything, is we're looking especially for research we can put in the hands of emergency managers, city planners, city administrators, county commissions, and just kind of go, hey, here's the answer for those solutions, or for that problem that you've been, mulling over. Because at the end of the day, there is a tendency to worship problems in the public administration and emergency management sphere. Things can get so big because you can see all the interconnected parts that it becomes hard to focus on a solution, especially when you have to do things like balance a budget or pave that pothole down the road, or else that person's going to keep, calling you and being like, well, where the hell's the paver? This is one of the areas where we truly believe in the insight and the rigor and the capability of academia to find solutions to problems that paralyze so many around the United States and the world as a whole. And then finally, admitting that we are all only human here. These are great areas of research, but we also want to know, what is it that we haven't considered in this list? What are we overlooking? What is it that there is some explanatory value that needs to be explored and put down in paper for us to see and better understand that we are not even really considering that we should be. May the best proposal win in that case. So that's us trying to make sure that nobody is painted into a corner, and there is freedom for research on any number of topics with any sort of explanatory value. And it really is. We just want to see the best stuff. We don't want to make you bend to our will. We want to see what you can provide us to better shape our mission to help people before, during, and after disasters. Can we go to the next slide, please? Fantastic. Our goals are relatively straightforward. Of course, we have to put them in a bulleted list because we're the federal government. We are here to help. One is to just fund the best research with the highest potential for applications to emergency management practice and policy, to grow emergency management as a professional field through the use of academic rigor. Another major area is that we saw the map earlier. I was happy to see that Region 8 is in the top part of the 10 regions in terms of academic representation. But I will say that it is still a personal goal of mine and a goal of Region 8 as a whole to use our capability to support current and future generations of diverse researchers in FEMA Region 8. We want to use this to help make sure that everyone gets their share of the rain. That may not be the best turn of phrase given our line of work, but we want to ensure that if there's a brilliant talent somewhere out there and some small liberal arts college in the high plains of the Dakotas, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for them to get their chance to shine. Our third one is we want to use this as some of our first tentative steps to support and build a research community of practice across FEMA Region 8. I don't know if we will ever be able to come close to the fantastic work that the Natural Hazard Center has done. Maybe the answer is we stand on the shoulder of giants, or more appropriately, ride coattails, perhaps. But the goal is to try and build a standing roster of people we can turn to, the best and the brightest, our think tank that we can work with at a moment's notice, whether it be a disaster that has just occurred, a change in administration policy, a new program that allocates funds to address a problem that we haven't had before, anything like that. Just this building a roster of all-stars. Because we're getting close to the World Series, so I have to throw in a couple of baseball references. And then finally, this is a personal goal, I think, of both myself and I'm sorry, Aaron, I refuse to acknowledge anything from the city of Houston. I see our peer, my peer Kelly Fitzgerald is on. She and I talk about this a lot, about bridging the gap between practitioners and academics. We talked about the model of the pracademic, someone who is a practitioner, but with academic rigor backing them, underlying their decision making. And that is a huge goal for us. We want to have emergency managers in rural counties know that, hey, these guys, this research is good. This person has really helped us out before, and it's made us better in what we do. And vice versa, start opening doors to allow academics to be able to go into the field and work with more emergency management practitioners in pursuit of data that may be quickly perishable or just has some sort of longevity and just needs to be knit together through the right lens to better understand a phenomenon. And I think that is it for me. So do I turn back to Dr. Tobin or Dr. Peak?
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So thank you so much, Daniel. We are so excited about this relationship and being able to put out this special call for all of our FEMA 8 researchers. And we are just so excited. And now I think we're just going to open it up to the rest of the people that are on the call to answer any questions you might have. So I'm going to go ahead and actually stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. Let me do that here. Great. So I see that the chat was active. So let me pull that up now that I can have that view.
And while you're doing that, Jen, I don't think there are any questions in the chat yet, but I see our friend Divya has her hand up. And so would you kick us off, please?
Hi, everyone. A lot of familiar faces here. And I see Courtney Flint, who, by the way, was on my committee for my PhD.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Committee members here. So this is just well indeed.
I'll sing the It's a Small World song.
I know. We do have a strong Utah contingent on here today, I wanted to acknowledge. So yes.
Well, I wanted to ask one question. So just a clarification. So this is not necessarily perishable. We're not looking at ephemeral type of data, right?
That you can do that, but you don't have to. So it's not a requirement that it's perishable data, even though you'll see in our quick response guidelines that it still says a statement of perishable data in there, but only include that part if you are actually collecting perishable data. Otherwise, like I said, you can do, past disasters or future. So.
And I have one more question. So I understand that we have to be PIs from within FEMA Region 8, but can we have a collaborator who's not within Region 8? Great.
And in fact, we would love that. One of the things we talked about in the run up to this call was, as Daniel said in one of our prep calls, that obviously the hazards that we face here in this region do not obey state level boundaries. And so many of the lessons that we could learn here in the region are very likely applicable across the American West and perhaps even further beyond. And so Divya, that is absolutely wonderful if there are partners inside and or outside the region. Yes, thank you.
Great. Does anybody else have questions? Oh, Courtney, you're up.
Great, thanks. This is all very exciting. My question is about timing. One of the things that would be related to what we might be proposing is everything would probably be quiet through the winter because everything will be very cold, be flooding related. Would spring floods fit within this sort of timeline? But sounds like they probably wouldn't. Or when does the clock start? That 3 months past, 3 months prior or ahead? What is that, the timeline of submission or of that January deadline? Or what's that? What's the key time frame for this?
That is a great question. And Jen, do you want to take the on slides answer? And then I have maybe another thought on that in relation to what Courtney said.
Yes, so we are accepting applications only through January of 2023. So we will not be accepting new proposal applications after that point. And then Lori, did you have something to add?
So Courtney, it is a great question. And one of the things we've been talking about is this has been, again, knock on wood, a relatively quiet year. And that is one of the reasons, but again, it could change in a minute, in an hour, in a day. But one of the reasons we were talking about both extending this backwards. And so if someone has a project or might want to launch a project on an already occurred event, or you're right, if something happens in the near term. But one of the reasons that for this particular special call, we're only accepting proposals through the end of January, as Jen noted, is because our partnership with FEMA, from the time of funding, you have 6 months to get in your report, but we only have sort of like a 1 year block with FEMA. And so not to get down into the weeds too much, but if we start funding proposals in March, April, May, then the researchers won't have time to do the research and write the report, and we wouldn't be able to fulfill our expectations with Region 8. Now, with that said, if a disaster happened on February 4th, and it was like, oh, darn it, that window just passed. If something happens sort of close to the window, always reach out to us and say, hey, is there something still available? Because as Jen said, we might not have dispersed the funds that we had set aside for this. And if you say, like, I know it's just past the deadline, I can definitely meet that report deliverable. There is a little bit of wiggle room, but we just want to be careful because we also have expectations we need to meet with FEMA Region 8. And again, if we start accepting proposals too late in the game, we won't be able to get the reports finalized with the researchers. Does that make sense, Courtney? And
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Completely get it. I'm just trying to think about the sort of the horizon here of events, knowing that there can be other angles into this. So one of the things that if you go beyond the event itself, a hazard event, what about an articulation of a risk, a new articulation of risk that is not necessarily, doesn't actually occur, but is a catalyst for action or interaction that could be potentially studied to look at response to risk as a response to hazard as opposed to a response to event. Is that something that fits within your view?
I think that's a Daniel question. I mean, I think we were taking a very broad and encompassing perspective to that, but Daniel, do you have a specific comment or feedback for Courtney on that?
Sometimes we in the emergency management realm can be borderline hubristic with thinking we completely understand the mechanics behind an incident or a response or a recovery. I personally welcome any and all research that opens my eyes.
Okay, that's helpful.
And
Gives
I just
me
want
a
to point out
sense that there's a
also,
window.
Courtney, is that even if there was a, say, late spring disaster, our quick response grant program is always open. It's always open rolling. And of course, we would love to get more applications in or more proposals from FEMA Region 8, even if it doesn't become part of this FEMA Region 8 series here for this special call. We will still be accepting proposals that could focus on FEMA Region 8, and that would only be a plus for us. So
Okay, that's great. Because otherwise, this timing is sort of looking at winter events, sort of fall winter events, and some of our biggest issues in this region are more summer events, whether it's floods or fires or what have you. So great to know. Thank you so much.
And we were thinking too, again, to that, not to keep moving to that sort of past event, but sort of thinking to some of you may have students, that just a reminder that the quick response program is open to students. So we really want to underscore that. Also, one thing we've really been emphasizing through a lot of our research award programs at the Hazard Center, I'm looking at Kim Schoaf here, thinking about some of her multi-wave studies, right? And so this might be an opportunity if you'd already, been using a survey instrument with a particular population to understand public health preparedness, just for example, that this might be a chance to add on an additional longitudinal wave, just for example. And so that's what we're trying to, like Jen said, we know we're using the quick response program, like we're driving that vehicle for this, but we also want to encourage researchers to think really expansively, as you're bringing into the conversation, Courtney. Maybe it's about thinking about cascading hazards or new ways of conceptualizing and communicating risk. Maybe it's about adding additional longitudinal waves to ongoing projects. Maybe it's about adding an evaluation to something that's already happening. So I think we are trying to be as expansive as possible because we recognize this time issue is real. Thank you. Amanda, did you have any questions or anything you brought into the call you wanted to raise?
No, I think you've been really clear. I just wanted to kind of understand the opportunity more and get my brain thinking about potential projects. So yeah,
Nice.
It's good.
Thank you. And Kim, I'm going to call on you next. Any questions from you or comments or anything?
oh, you're muted.
Oh,
I think this is exciting, something to get maybe some of my students excited about some things that they are wanting to look at. So
excellent. I'm thinking about that doctoral student of yours, Kim, who presented at the earthquake meetings in Salt Lake in June, was just right. That project was absolutely fascinating and fantastic. And so, yeah, so thank you for joining today and thinking about that. Nice. Thank you.
And we will send a follow-up email out to the whole group again that actually links to this video recording for today. And also we're going to build out a web page that'll have all the information we covered today on it as well. So you can share that with students too.
Nice. So one question. So just thinking, so would public health hazards, health hazards be something that you would be interested in as opposed to a natural hazard?
I will say from the Hazard Center perspective, absolutely YES, capital YES, but that will bounce that over to Daniel too, and knowing about sort of connections between FEMA and CDC. We especially saw in the Utah earthquake 2020, for example. But Daniel, what would be your response to a really solidly public health proposal?
seeing as we just spent 2.5 years working side by side with ASPR, CDC, and God knows what other public health entities, yeah, I would say that we are very interested in that. It's always interesting when we discover a whole new area that FEMA is suddenly responsible for, oftentimes with no warning. Epidemiology and public health is apparently now one of those non-Stafford Act areas that we get involved in. So yeah, very much so. We are still in a very much introspective, lessons learned, continuous improvement mindset when it comes to COVID-19. And as Dr. Peak said, the intersection between public health and natural hazards has already shown, like the Utah earthquake was a good one. Dr. David McIntyre wrote a case study on that. That is the tip of the iceberg. That is one paper. We're not done. That well has plenty of water left in it.
Very nice. Good. And Aaron, I don't know if you have any, Aaron used to be with us here in Region 8, but again is here in Region 9. Aaron, do you have any questions or anything you wanted to bring into the call before we wrap up?
Yeah, so great to see all these familiar faces. I know quite a few of you. So I guess one of my questions would be like, what if there was like a national level study, you know, maybe not focused on just Region 8, but could a national level study be applicable?
Kelly Fitzgerald, we're looking at you. But
I was actually just typing in the chat that I was like, oh, I love that.
So Kelly's joining us from FEMA Higher Ed, and so Aaron, absolutely, again, we're wanting to cultivate this community of research practice here in the region, but I think that would 100% fall within scope, and we would be very interested in that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm wondering if FEMA, I've done a little bit of work at the national level on flood insurance inequities, and that kind of reminds me of the preparedness aspect. And so I'm wondering, there is some research about inequities in flood insurance, but not necessarily at the national level. So I'm just wondering if that would be of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great area to pursue.
Awesome.
Yeah, Aaron, and I'm going to jump in there and say that's also something that's of high importance for us. If for nothing more than there's a very interesting consumer dynamic in Region 8. There are a lot of people in Region 8 who just feel they don't need flood insurance because, oh, I live in the mountains, or, oh, I live, you know, in the foothills or whatever. And, you know, 2013 in Colorado should have demonstrated the folly of that thinking. But another aspect of Region 8 is also on our east side, we have a significant proportional population for the states in North and South Dakota in particular that live within floodplains of rivers that routinely flood. And in some cases, don't just routinely flood, but flood for extremely prolonged periods of time. Flood insurance is for us very important in terms of understanding almost sort of, I guess, social game theory in terms of people who are deciding who do and don't need it based on where they live, as well as the most important population centers in North and South Dakota are wholly within floodplains. So yeah, flood insurance, decision-making of people who are interested in flood insurance, always welcome. We will roll out the red carpet for you and walk you over to our peers in mitigation.
Awesome, thank you.
I think too, a couple of seeds to plant. The New Mexico fire, I mean, has had absolutely devastating consequences. And I know we've talked to some partners who are really interested in seeing some research on that. So again, Courtney, I really liked what you brought into the call about these may be event-specific applications, but then also there may be sort of these broader, longer-term questions about equity in terms of preparedness actions and how it varies by demographic characteristics, geography, et cetera. So I think, again, being really, really expansive in this call, and we're really excited to see what people bring to the table. And of course, again, remember, always, if you have questions, anything, reach out to us at that has.research awards email that I put in the chat, and that will make sure that's on the slides and everything when we post. So we're really happy to correspond pre-proposal as well with anybody. Jen, is there anything else you would want to add, just as people are sort of maybe thinking about moving forward and as we bring this to a close? Yeah, and Divya, my office sits on a fault line, very motivating indeed.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see the proposals that come in, and especially, because we live here and we're very excited to have research being done in this part of the world. And just, yeah, reach out if you have any questions. Know that we know there's flexibility here. And so it's kind of a great opportunity to kind of be creative in what you want to approach here in the region. So thank you all very much for attending today.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to say thank you for bringing us together, because I don't often get to see the other social scientists in Region 8. So hi. And you'll be hearing from us because we have a resilience symposium in November. So
yay.
yeah.
Well, and Dave McIntyre also in Utah. We have this amazing Utah contingent. He sent his regrets. His nephew actually is the quarterback for the Stanford University football team. And so Dave had a good excused absence from the call today, and several other research colleagues wrote to us to let us know they couldn't be here. But we're looking forward to continuing to build this forward. So yeah, so thank you. It's great to see you all. Thank you to our partners and colleagues at FEMA. Thank you on behalf of Jen and myself and Luther, the entire Natural Hazard Center team. And we will get these posted and out to this video and the slides, and we'll see you all soon. Have a great rest of your Friday, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Bye.